What's the worst nightmare you ever had? I live alone and heard someone in my house. Lots of noise, slamming doors, talking and walking loudly, the opposite of stealth. I had no idea if I was awake or not, if I was being robbed or about to die or worse. One of the worst nightmares I ever had was when I found myself lost in a dark forest. It was so quiet and I couldn't see anything. I felt scared and alone. Suddenly, I heard strange noises around me and I started running, but I kept tripping over branches and falling. I wanted to wake up so badly, but I just couldn't. When I finally did wake up, I felt so relieved to be in my bed, safe and sound. It took me a while to fall back asleep after that. In my dream, I appeared in my pajamas because I was running late for a final exam. As it happens, I was late for a final exam and it was not a fantasy. I had a dream when I was 15-ish, after my nan had passed away. She was sitting in a chair outside. I ran over to her and ran around to the front of her, and every time I tried to see her face, she kept rotating in her chair, so I couldn't look at her. I didn't go to the hospital when she died. She was already gone when my mom called me and I was afraid. All I could think was she was disappointed in me not seeing her then, and now I wasn't allowed to see her. Another one was shortly after we had to put one of our dogs to sleep at the vet after she shattered her hip and thigh. I had a dream she was in our backyard, stood up like a person and had clearly been shot in the face, very mangled, and she said, "Why did you do this to me? That shit fucked me up." My mom abandoning me. In my dream, my number was never called while I stood in a never-ending wait at the DMV. Very scary. I get night terrors and sleep paralysis. One night there was a shadowy entity literally ripping my family to shreds. I knew it wasn't real and tried screaming myself awake, but my husband had to shake me awake. The one where I had to present on quantum physics and arrived at school nude. I am glad it was only a dream. It was the ones I did get several times a day for the week, or 2 post-surgery when I was taking opioid pain meds. It got to be that I dreaded falling asleep because I knew I'd be awake again in a couple hours, drenched in sweat, having just had some terrible heart-pounding nightmare. The worst nightmare I had is when someone was chasing me but am running in slow motion and I seem like I can't wake up. I once dreamed I was back in high school, but my pants were missing and everyone noticed. I woke in the middle of the night, went to get a glass of water and noticed that the front door was open. Went to close it and heard someone laughing behind me. I live alone. Then I woke up. Bleeding to death for no reason and genuinely and vividly going through the panic of losing the grip on life and slowly losing the ability to breathe and stay conscious for a very prolonged time. I once dreamt I was late for a test I hadn't studied for, but somehow the whole school was watching. That would dreaming am still in the same verbally abusive house I grew up in. The worst nightmare I ever had was where I was completely alone in a dark, empty house, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape. It felt so real, and I woke up feeling totally shaken. A false awakening in a severe undead thunderstorm. Real waking life. By a long shot. Frequently. My mother being run over. The worst nightmare I ever had was one where I was trapped in a never-ending maze, and no matter how many turns I made, I couldn't find my way out. It was like the walls were closing in and I couldn't breathe.